So we will highlight practices that can significantly enhance the ecological, economical, and social environment around the city street. So the first image come with a question: how do you imagine a green street? What is a green street? So I just try to collect information that would be useful to stimulate the imagery of what a green street is. The first image that may come to mind is a street with lines of trees, maybe with some shrubs, smelling good, greenery in general. But a green street can be much more than that. A fact, in urban cities, streets occupy an average of 25 to 35% of the urban space, excluding the other public space. So it's huge, and it's a huge opportunity that we have to change the streets and the way of living in cities, mostly if we want a car to be less prominent than nowadays. So less space for cars means more space for pedestrian mobility and bike lanes, for stormwater management in relationship with greenery, and for people to share and enjoy public realm. So these are the statements. Streets are ecosystems. They can be ecological corridors. They can be redesigned using green infrastructural practices in the frame of nature-based solutions. But streets are also public spaces, so we will get to know the dynamics of tactical urbanism and placemaking through specific case studies. And streets can be changed. Status quo doesn't have to be taken for granted. Transportation engineers can implement a flexible design to give priority to other users and uses rather than cars. So we begin from the first statement. And if we stay in this first image of a green street and focus on the lines of trees and shrubs, and we consider them in connection with other green linear structures in the urban environment, we could say that green streets can also become ecological corridors in the frame of a bigger scale green urban network. So let's zoom out to a macro scale to better understand the potentials of a green connection structure. From a landscape ecology point of view, ecosystems and habitats are structured basically by two elements: patches and corridors, depending on their form. A continuous corridor can make connection between different patches and therefore enhance the movement of wildlife and living material, both on ground and aerial level. But the corridor is not always continuous. We can see it here, the stepping stone. That means, for instance, when you want to cross a little river and you step to a stone to another to make your feet so that your feet will not get wet. This is a typical situation in a urban environment because of the cuts of infrastructures and build areas. So I would like to apply this macro scale to a specific place, the city of Barcelona. We can see we have here big patches and mountains and smaller patches inside the city and corridors. The corridors in this case can be rivers or the agricultural park, but they can also be city streets. So this is the plan for green and biodiversity that has as a challenge to give continuity to streets as ecological corridors. So a city street as an ecological corridor could have this aspect: continuity of trees and shrubs alignments, permeable pavements, and pacified space for pedestrians. So let's see which are the benefits of a green street and their impact on health and well-being. The intervention and practices can be defined under 3 thematic frames: the ecological, economical, and social. Nature-based solutions are solutions to promote adaptation and resilience into the built environment towards human well-being. And urban green infrastructures, as part of a family of NBS, have all directly or indirectly an impact on living things and on their health and well-being. A city street can be transformed into a green street through nature-based solutions at different scales: planning, design, environmental management, and engineer practices to promote adaptation to climate change and a healthier environment for its inhabitants. This is an example of a set of urban green infrastructure, for example, stormwater, infiltration tanks, and swales, rain garden connected with green roofs, etc. So the ecological benefits of these practices are these. So we will see it point by point. Street greening improves water quality. We know that when it rains a lot, green infrastructures are temporarily storing runoff water and filtering it from pollutants through vegetation or decantation. And this improves the quality of water entering water bodies. Then they increase groundwater recharge. In a urban environment, the problem of flooding and runoff water management depends on the impermeable soil. So it's a priority to convert the city surface into more permeable. And for example, rain gardens and bioswales make this function of stormwater catchment, then phytodepuration through plants and infiltration into the soil. This you can see an example of rain garden or street curb with vegetated curb and a bioswale. Also, this is another case, but it's not directly related with greenery, but it's very effective, and it's an infiltration tank that can also be wrapped up with the geomembrane, impermeable geomembrane, and become a retention tank. And it's interesting because it can bear heavy weight, so it can be used under street level. Another benefit of street greening is that it improves air quality. Trees and other vegetation can improve air quality by directly removing a pollution and slowing temperature-dependent reactions that form particulate matter that is hazardous to human health. Vegetation blocks the shortwave solar radiation, but also absorbs long-wave radiation emitted by surrounding materials, lowering temperatures, especially during the day. And then this image of this old engraving is to say that a 2021 study at Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health shows that regularly spending time around trees provides a wide range of human health benefits, from lowering stress to improving cognition to boosting longevity. In an urban environment, trees have to be, they have an infiltration function like the rain gardens, and mostly their good health depends on the volume of the tree box where they are planted. So with quite a big volume of topsoil, so And this is a green infrastructure practice, the eco boxes that let the roots expand and ventilate because they are 94% empty. So they can be a good solution to mix it with the volume of the tree box. Other practices, green walls and green roofs, apart from cooling the buildings, they also mitigate air pollutants, avoiding this street canyon effect. Street greening also reduces urban heat island effect. So using reflective surfaces in pavement and incorporating vegetation can reduce temperature impacts. Heat can be reflected back to the atmosphere by using pavements with light colored surfaces, which have a higher albedo. And also permeable pavements and vegetation will evapotranspire water and cool the air temperature. So this is an example, for example, of a permeable pavement. There are much more, but this especially has a very high drainage capacity. And it's a monogranular aggregate. And it's really, it can be used, for example, for bike lanes, for the pedestrian paths of the street. Street greening also enhances wildlife habitats and biodiversity. As a health and well-being improvement, it's clear that we are referring all the time only to human well-being from an anthropocentric approach, but it's also important that wildlife can have a better environment to live, find food and shelter in a urban environment. So human well-being depends on the relationship with nature and in all its aspects through the contact with green and with wildlife. Now we go to the economical benefits. The first three are directly related with the ecological benefits. So reduces water treatment costs because water is cleaner. It reduces infrastructure costs because green infrastructure are less implicated with in this process, so they don't have to be compromised. And then reduce property damage due to flooding, because all these solutions are fighting climate change and floods. The fourth point increases property values. There is not really exact data, but about how much it increases, greener increases property value. But I found out a US study says that the green surrounding can increase the value of a house around 3.5 to 5%, but it can be more, depends on the situation. And this is an anecdotic case, this one that I'm showing, because it's far much more. And it's the High Line in the Meatpacking District in New York. It was an abandoned elevated rail line in the late 90s. Well-known photographer Joyce Sternfeld made a series of photos of the abandoned tracks, fascinated from the spontaneous vegetation that was growing there. So some neighbors and philanthropists, like it happens in the US, formed a foundation to collect funds for renovating the place. A lot of money was put in there and the project was built. And so there is, as you see in the photo on the right, contact with water, grasses. So the place has been a huge success. It has become a landmark of New York City. A lot of people go for a walk, but at the same time, the High Line started all around a process of construction of new high-standing buildings and the subsequent gentrification of the neighborhood that led to an increased value of the soil of more than 2,000%. So I said this is anecdotic because it's not so used, but it's important to think about the consequences of rough gentrification in this case, and the consequences that this has on social equality and the right to the city. So we go to the social benefits. Street greening increases pedestrian safety and traffic calming. We've seen here bump out curbs and swales and segregated biker lanes, offer security to bikers and pedestrians, and stimulate a healthier kind of mobility. By promoting walking and cycling, obesity and related heart diseases will decrease. It enhances well-being of individuals, aesthetically pleasing pathways, trees, and other vegetation, enhance well-being and help the mind recover from mental illness and stress. Using porous pavement found a reduction in noise level that is also important for well-being, up to 10 decibels. So, and then it increases sense of community. Green street projects are an occasion to involve the community in the process of designing and proposing ideas for their communal environment. For this reason, it's important to implement green infrastructures, practices, together with placemaking and the participation of the community. And so by this, we come to the second statement: streets are public space. Of course, they are, but they are mostly occupied by cars. So I just want to introduce this point with a quote from S.Rueda, that is the inventor of super blocks in Barcelona. I don't know if you heard about it. He says, I can't read. The goal, to put it simply, is a post-car city. Not a city without cars, but a city in which the bulk of the street space isn't devoted to cars, and most people don't have one. A city in which every citizen enjoys access to clean air, humane levels of noise, walkable green and public spaces, community and multimodal transportation options. So the next case studies that I'm going to present are especially linked to a specific claim: less cars, more public space for people, pedestrians and cyclists. We can call it tactical urbanism, temporary performances, activism, different forms to instigate processes of change in the perception of spaces, change of the status quo, change towards well-being. Parking Day is a global public participatory art project launched by Rebar in 2005 in San Francisco. And it is a day of September every year where people temporarily rethink street parking spaces and convert them to tiny parks and places for art, play, and activism. I also participate in one of them in Barcelona, and I just wanted to show this particular project because it has to do directly with well-being and a happy moment on a very busy street. We were working in collaboration with an elementary school situated on this busy street, and the whole day people came and experimented with walking barefoot into the leaves of plane trees that we were recollecting near Barcelona. And it was really a strange contrast to be so close to nature as a sensation, at the same time surrounded by cars. So then I will show briefly some of other examples. This was another project in Barcelona where I participated. It was a project of co-construction with the community, and it was this was not spontaneous. Was commissioned by the municipality for the Sustainable Mobility Week. So we built a proper pool. And also, again, the contact with water surface is another occasion to play and to feel good and for well-being. No, it was also with an educational project behind. Another case in Romania, in Bucuresti, was a temporal pool on a street in the center of Bucharest. So all this street temporary intervention to change the perspective of street space, to play, to claim lowering speed, for example, here. And we come to the third statement. Streets can be changed. And we will go through this point with a specific case study that is these super blocks in Barcelona. Just to understand the environment, it's thought to be, but the theorist of this project is S.Rueda, and this is how the Eixample of Barcelona was built in the 19th century, and it was imagined. If you see the two first there images on the right side, it was imagined to be very porous to vegetation and at ground zero, but then speculation made it like the image of the left. So it was completely constructed. All the ground zero is mostly constructed. So it's very dense city, one of the most dense of Europe. And this is his proposal. So we have a grid of streets and we take away traffic around 9 blocks, the green boxes. So only resident cars and services are admitted at a low speed. And this is like these 9 blocks measure more or less 500 square meters. So in the super block, cars are not the owners of the street anymore. But I repeat, this concept it can function in a very dense and mixed use environment. So to propose super blocks, you need to have more than housing. You need to have shops, restaurants, gardens, services, the ability to provide within a workshed the basics of urban life. And you need also enough people, a critical mass of enough different varieties to activate street life and form a community. So this was the first phase, I mean, the theoretical phase. And then the first application, the first implementation was in 2016 in Poblenou, and was implemented with participation process. So this is a project of placemaking, really. It was this first intervention was more like temporary and very low cost. For these first 9 blocks at the phase 1, it was like a budget of 50,000 euros only for painting the pavement, signaling, and urban furniture, and then it will be to a very more defined project. But the result is that children were playing safe in the middle of a street, and there was a lot of particular uses, like making yoga in the middle of the street. It may seem a little weird because it's so hard surface, but maybe it's another way of occupy a space taken away from cars and like impose another perspective, no? Then the second implementation was already to other neighborhoods. And I want to highlight that in these different phases, there is like a sort of green transition from hard surface to green surface. So this is the first introduction to more greenery. And then an interesting process also that was that came in during the pandemic, the 2 years of pandemic. The municipality made some experiments to gain street space in the same example for pedestrian and cyclists. So for example, pacifying some street trenches or with temporary street furniture, or placing these temporary parklets to gain space that were not were very criticized because they are not, they are ugly for many people, but they did their function, and they did the function also to occupy this space, because when you make a temporary solution, it's interesting to see that they leave a trace in a way for a long-term solution also. And this is the last phase. We are there now. So it comes out again, this green transition, so or this image of streets as green corridors, because this new generation of superblocks includes this concept on streets through this combined structure of nodes and axes, and 4 of these nodes and 4 of these axes were object of a competition, and they will be implemented in 2002. So I wanted to show you how in the images of the competition, there is this green transition quite evident. So this could be rain gardens, or for thinking about it, this is a very big crossroad in the center of Barcelona, and this is green. It's pedestrian, so it's a big challenge. I mean, for the municipality also, and this also in the graphics there is this intention of making things less hard, no, more like fluffy and natural, no, and this is the note that the note that I think it's the best resuming, which are these 3 big issues that we were talking about in the statements that are resumed in these 3 schemes on the right upper side. That is green and biodiversity, stormwater management, and social connection. So a green street and at a urban scale has to introduce these practices all together, because their benefits and outcomes are interconnected. And to conclude, this could be a future vision of what a green street could be, where there are some people that are saying things. For example, this woman is saying, today I read in the newspaper that cinnamon trees flourish, blossomed. This girl says, today walking on the street I heard a cricket. And this man running says, I can go from the mountain to the sea without leaving green. So it's also this conscience, no, self-conscience that you are connected with the natural elements, no, so that we can achieve health and well-being and a connection with nature through street greening practices, using nature-based solutions, together with the engagement of the community. And so street can be greener and healthier, a healthier place to be. Thank you.